Every single Shih Tzu alive today, every last one of the millions living in homes around the world, is more closely related to wolves than a German Shepherd. That's not speculation. That's what DNA analysis confirmed when researchers finally decoded the genetic history of domestic dog breeds. And what they found about this tiny, fluffy lapdog shattered nearly everything we thought we knew. This is the real story of the Shih Tzu, a breed so ancient that its origins blur into myth, so rare it nearly went extinct twice, and so genetically surprising that it forced scientists to rethink the entire family tree of domestic dogs. It starts with the study that changed everything. On May 21, 2004, researchers at the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center in Seattle published their findings in the journal Science. Doctors Elaine Ostrander and Leonid Krugliak, along with graduate student Heidi Parker, had conducted the first extensive genetic comparison of domestic dog breeds, analyzing DNA from 414 dogs across 85 different breeds using microsatellite DNA markers, short, repeating sequences in the genome that act like unique fingerprints for each lineage. They were mapping which breeds were oldest and which were most closely related to the wolves that dogs originally descended from. What they expected was straightforward. Breeds that look wolf-like, your Huskies, your Malamutes, your German Shepherds, should sit closest to wolves on the genetic tree. And some of them did. The Nordic Spitz group, including Siberian Huskies, Samoyeds, and Alaskan Malamutes, showed the most shared wolf DNA of any group. No surprise there. But then the data threw a curveball nobody anticipated. Sitting right next to those rugged Arctic sled dogs on the genetic tree was the Shih Tzu, a dog that weighs between 4 and 7 kilograms, a dog that stands barely 20 to 28 centimeters tall, a dog whose face is mostly hair. As Dr. Ostrander described it, the study revealed that the Shih Tzu belongs to an elite group of just 14 ancient breeds, dogs the researchers called the best living representatives of the ancestral dog gene pool. The other members of this ancient club include the Basenji, Saluki, Afghan Hound, Tibetan Terrier, Lhasa Apso, Chow Chow, Pekingese, Shar-Pei, Akita, Shiba Inu, Alaskan Malamute, Siberian Husky, and Samoyed. The Shih Tzu is the closest known descendant of the prehistoric Chinese wolf. To understand how a wolf became this, you have to go back a very long time. Records show that short, square, under-the-table dogs existed in China as early as 1000 BC. By 624 CE, Shih Tzu-like dogs appear in Chinese art. The breed's name carries centuries of cultural weight because in contemporary Mandarin, the Shih Tzu is known as the Shi dog, named after Shi, regarded as one of the most beautiful women of ancient China. And the breed carried a deeper spiritual significance rooted in Buddhist mythology. According to legend, Buddha himself traveled with a small companion dog that could transform into a ferocious lion to protect him. When robbers once surrounded Buddha, his tiny dog morphed into a massive lion and scattered the attackers. Afterward, Buddha kissed the dog on its forehead in blessing, and to this day, many Shih Tzus carry a white spot on their foreheads, known as the Star of Buddha. The breed's connection to royalty deepened over centuries. Shih Tzus lived alongside the Imperial family throughout the Ming Dynasty, from 1368 to 1644. But the most fascinating chapter belongs to one woman, Empress Dowager Cixi. She dominated the court and policies of China's last imperial dynasty, the Qing dynasty, for nearly 50 years, from 1861 until her death in 1908. And she was obsessed with these dogs. Cixi supervised a world-renowned breeding program that included Shih Tzus, Pekingese, and Pugs. She directed the palace eunuchs to breed dogs small enough to be carried in a kimono sleeve, warm enough to serve as bed companions, and beautiful enough to reflect imperial glory. If a dog grew too large, it was killed. Standards were absolute. The eunuchs, though, had a side hustle. Puppies that didn't meet Sixie's exacting requirements were secretly sold to nobility outside the palace walls. This was extraordinarily risky because the dogs were rarely seen outside Imperial grounds, and anyone caught owning one could be sentenced to death. When Sixie died in 1908, the breeding program collapsed almost overnight. The carefully maintained bloodlines scattered. And then came 1949. The Communist Revolution swept China, and Shih Tzus, those living symbols of imperial wealth and excess, were systematically killed. The breed went extinct in its homeland. But here's where the story takes its most improbable turn. The Shih Tzu survived barely because a handful of dogs had already been smuggled out of China. Between 1928 and 1952, just 14 dogs, 7 males and 7 females, were exported to England and Scandinavia. Every single Shih Tzu alive today descends from those 14 animals. Every one. That's millions of dogs worldwide, all traceable to 14 survivors. What geneticists call a classic genetic bottleneck, a catastrophic narrowing of a gene pool that permanently shapes every generation that follows. General Sir Douglas Brownrigg and his wife Lady Brownrigg brought 2 of these dogs from China to England. The first breed club formed there in 1934, and the first AKC-style breed standard was written in 1935. American soldiers stationed overseas during World War II brought Shih Tzus home with them through the 1940s and 50s, and by 1963 the American Shih Tzu Club had formed. The AKC officially recognized the breed in 1969, registering 2,811 Shih Tzus that year and formally codifying the AKC breed standard. Less than a decade later, that number had exploded to nearly 15,000. Today, the Shih Tzu ranks at number 20 on the AKC's most popular breeds list. That genetic bottleneck, the fact that an entire breed funneled through just 14 individuals, left a mark that goes well beyond a survival story. The same narrow gene pool that saved the Shih Tzu also concentrated hereditary health conditions within the breed. Shih Tzus rank among the breeds with the highest prevalence of corneal ulcerative disease, a consequence of both their brachycephalic face structure and their limited genetic diversity. And the genetics keep revealing new layers. More recent genome sequencing showed that the Shih Tzu's genome isn't purely ancient. Chinese toy breeds like the Shih Tzu and Pekingese actually result from a blending of ancient East Asian dog populations with more modern lineages related to breeds like the Brussels Griffon and the Pug. About 28% of their genetic makeup traces to those ancient East Asian dogs. Meanwhile, a 2025 study found that almost 2/3 of all breed dogs carry wolf ancestry within their nuclear genome from mixing that occurred nearly 1,000 generations ago. There's one more thing worth addressing. Whether the Shih Tzu should be called a Tibetan or Chinese breed remains genuinely contentious. Many historians argue the breed originated in Tibet and was gifted to Chinese emperors by the Dalai Lama. Tibet having been a sovereign nation until the 1950s. Others maintain the breed was developed and refined within China's imperial palaces. Dog historians tend to hold very strong opinions on this subject, and the debate shows no signs of settling. What isn't debatable anymore is what the DNA tells us. This breed with its flowing coat and pushed-in face, this dog that was bred to warm the beds of emperors and fit inside silk sleeves, carries within its cells a genetic heritage older and wilder than almost any other domestic dog on earth. The Shih Tzu was never just a lapdog, and it was never just a companion for royalty. It's a living thread connecting us directly back to the wolves that first sat beside human fires thousands of years ago. We just couldn't see it until we looked at the code written in its DNA.